What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so continuing on with Ultimatum, we get to what I think is probably one of the best parts of the story, which is near the end. Here's the thing, this is why I say, a lot of people say Ultimatum went off the rails, but I don't really think it did. Like, I consider this to be kind of a part where things just sort of popped off and went crazy. But again, like, we're basically dealing with Magneto kind of laying waste to Earth in the Ultimate Universe, and it's cool for what it is, and it's interesting to see it all happen, but this deals with largely like the Avengers and the various superhero teams trying to face off against Magneto. Now, what this does is it basically picks up really with like Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. And the reason why is because with Captain America basically rallying the various superheroes of the Marvel community in the Ultimate Universe, what this means is that everyone, whether they're an enemy, whether they're kind of an outsider, cast off, whatever the case may be, they've all basically been rallied under Captain America in order to lead the charge against Magneto. Now keep in mind, this is basically the leftovers. It's basically anybody who's managed to survive the whole experience. And so with the Incredible Hulk, I guess alongside Spider-Man, with it picking up and him just kind of tearing up Doctor Strange's home, a lot of it's because the Incredible Hulk doesn't really understand what's going on. And much like a child, the Incredible Hulk just destroys what he doesn't understand. He's like, I don't understand what's going on, so I'm just gonna start smashing things. Like that's the Incredible Hulk's line of logic. The problem with this is that what the Hulk has done is he's basically unlocked the Forbidden Room. By literally tearing through the place, he's ripped open the Forbidden Room. And in doing so, he's let loose a power. And so in response to this, Spider-Man basically dies. Like he's totally killed in this entire situation. And Kitty Pryde's kind of left to pick up the pieces. And so in a response to this, what we end up finding out is the Forbidden Room had basically gained access to Dormammu. Now, this is something that I want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to Marvel Comics. A lot of people find this a little bit confusing because people think about like the Marvel multiverse and they think about the Dark Dimension and Asgard, things like that. Every universe has its own Dark Dimension, meaning its own place where Dormammu resides. Every universe has its own version of Asgard. The Ultimate Universe established that. The funny thing about this is that Doctor Strange immediately responds and tries to take out Dormammu. And this is one of the big differences here. The general gist of this is that Dormammu's power is so extreme that by and large, it's usually believed if he entered into the main Marvel universe and like the Infinity Stones or a Cosmic Cube was not assembled in time to defeat him, then Dormammu would probably destroy everything in existence. Like he would probably wipe out the entirety of the universe. The difference here is that in the Ultimate Universe, Dormammu is still exceedingly strong, but Doctor Strange is nowhere near as strong as he is in the main Marvel universe. Now again, this also brings in the nature of Doctor Strange. So in the Ultimate Universe, Stephen Strange did not like run into the Ancient One and gain his powers by, study and meditation, things like that. It wasn't the case. Instead, what had happened was you had the original Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange Sr., basically, who had a son alongside Clea, this, basically his protege more or less. But the problem was that the original Doctor Strange just vanished. He was gone one day and nobody ever knew what happened to him. And so Clea raised Doctor Strange Jr. by himself, but didn't teach him about magic. But as time went on, he basically encountered Wong, who took Stephen under his wing, taught him everything about magic, and that leads to what's going on right here. The problem with this is that because this version of Stephen Strange is so weak, where he does try to defeat Dormammu, it is no challenge whatsoever. Dormammu's just kind of like, what is this? And it just snaps him out. Like that's literally it. This fight is like 5 seconds long. It's Stephen Strange who launches an attack. It does nothing against Dormammu. Dormammu ensnares him in what looks like the Crimson Bands of Sidorak and then literally pops his head off and Doctor Strange dies. Like that's it. It happened so fast. And that's the crazy thing because people are not used to that. Like people are not used to Doctor Strange just getting wrecked so easily. Now, of course, Susan Storm has since recovered from her injuries. And then you also have the Thing Ben Grimm who's there alongside him. But one of the things that also happened too is that Dormammu who had actually captured Johnny Storm. And in doing so, he's basically been harnessing the flames of Johnny Storm and using it for his own ends. But it gets kind of crazy here because from this point, what you end up doing is you basically switch over to the events of the Incredible Hulk. Now, again, the Incredible Hulk kind of fighting alongside, not really fighting alongside, but essentially traveling over to where Doctor Strange is and trying to face off against Dormammu. It would be an intriguing situation to see it happen. The problem is that we don't really see it happen immediately. Instead, what happens is the military tries to attack the Incredible Hulk and Cyclops basically saves him by shooting down a helicopter. And then we switch to Ultimate Hulk versus Ultimate Wolverine. Now, this has happened before. And this is the reason why we really don't get a repeat of things the way they were before. And the reason for this is because in the Ultimate Universe, Wolverine's adamantium is not nearly as durable and strong as it is in the main Marvel Universe, which is why when Ultimate Hulk first fought Ultimate Wolverine, he was able to successfully tear him in half because the adamantium's just not that strong. It's not indestructible. And so what we end up doing is we kind of sidetrack for a second. We jump over to Nick Fury, the original Nick Fury, or not really the original, but like Samuel Jackson Nick Fury, who again had basically been confined to like the Squadron Supreme universe. Now the reason why he's here, the reason why Reed Richards, Doctor Doom, and company are here is because of the fact that they're basically looking for Nick Fury's help. Now this is designed to feed into the main Marvel Universe classic Nick Fury. And what I mean by that is if you're talking about like the old white guy Nick Fury in the main Marvel Universe, the guy always had a backup plan. Like he had bunkers everywhere. And that was like one of the big things of Age of Ultron, right? Like Age of Ultron happens, Ultron travels, or he uses the Vision in the present day to basically start spawning a litany of Ultron robots, kills almost all the superheroes on Earth. Captain America, Spider-Man, like a handful of heroes are left. Captain America's basically given up. And then he remembers Nick Fury's got bunkers. And there's a time platform we can use that's probably there that belonged to Doctor Doom because Doctor Doom's long since been destroyed. And so they travel to the bunker only to find Nick Fury's there and he's alive. The guy is like, that's one of the crazy things. Like original Nick Fury back in the day, dude, the guy was amazing. Like the way he was written was so cool. Like when he went underground, that's exactly what it meant. You didn't find him. But with regards to this situation here, this group basically showing up and meeting Samuel Jackson Nick Fury, it falls in line with main Marvel Universe Nick Fury because Samuel Jackson Fury essentially just kind of had all these different protocols in place, but knew so much stuff because he'd been around for so long. And he really kind of had this idea or something equivalent to like the Xavier protocols in the sense of I've got all these different scenarios mapped out and like how should we respond accordingly? So it's really one of these things where it's like a desperate situation. Now where they initially ask him, hey, like will you come back? Nick Fury says I will, but only if Doctor Doom tells the truth. And that's when we end up finding out Doctor Doom was the one that had Scarlet Witch killed, basically had her murdered, which was one of the reasons all this stuff set in motion. The other half of this was the death of Quicksilver. Now, of course, this was covered in the prelude to Ultimatum and Ultimate Power. Didn't really see a reason to cover it. I guess we could. But the crazy thing about this is that this version of Doctor Doom is really intriguing. Ultimate Doctor Doom is nowhere near as interesting, capable, or smart as main Marvel Universe Doctor Doom. And the reason for this is because the Ultimate version is designed to be more grounded. Main Marvel Universe Doctor Doom is kind of like just, oh my God, that guy's crazy with magic and he's super smart and he has all these different things. But that's flights of fantasy. No one can ever be on that level. Ultimate Doctor Doom was designed to be more grounded and not really be like that. Now, the fact that this version of Doctor Doom is not that smart is actually what makes him interesting. That's what makes him intriguing. The fact that he can't predict the end of all, how everything will unfold. And he's just not that. I mean, he's smart, but in terms of like comparing him to like main Marvel Universe Doom, it's no contest here. But the revelation that he's essentially the person that instigated all of this really kind of sets things off. And it really sends things in a direction where like everybody blames Doom now. So of course, Nick Fury ends up traveling back with them. But at this point, we switch over to the Citadel of Magneto. And of course, Warren Worthington basically makes his move. And that was the whole idea here. Warren Worthington earlier in the story was like, look, I'm so pissed off that Magneto did what he did. I'm going to take him out myself. But that's stupid because Warren Worthington is not Archangel. He's just a guy with wings. He's basically like one of the most useless members of the X-Men ever, which is how he was originally. And so when he shows up here and says, I want to defeat Magneto, it's him being reckless and emotional and not fully thinking things through. And what happens is exactly what you would think happens. He literally comes flying in, goes to attack Magneto, and Magneto's like, Sabretooth, he's all yours. And Sabretooth comes flying in and just massacres Warren Worthington. Now, with this version of Sabretooth here, what you have is something that's very reminiscent of like Chris Claremont's Sabretooth, just like hardcore and unbridled just rage and destruction. So it's kind of cool. It's a pretty interesting throwback. But from here, we pick up with Valkyrie. Now, Valkyrie showing up on the scene again is to kind of be the stand-in for Thor, is really what this is. But this goes exactly as you would expect. I mean, it's a girl who's wielding a metal sword who runs up on a guy that can control magnetism. It's not going to end well, and it doesn't. Now, Magneto initially gets his arm cut off, right? I mean, that's one of the things to bear in mind. Valkyrie's not like a weak chick, right? She's not like just a girl who's there to look pretty, and that's it. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. Like, she's a pretty hardcore and fierce warrior. And this is illustrated by the fact that where Magneto does, like slice her throat using the sword, it doesn't actually kill her. And so it's kind of crazy. But then you have basically like the rest of the Avengers who show up, Captain America and all those guys. And then Magneto just like collapses the roof on him. So it's just like, Jesus. I mean, it's awesome to see this happen. It's awesome to see this unfold. And he literally cauterizes his own wound with his magnetic power. So I mean, you're talking about a pretty brutal guy, like a pretty brutal set of circumstances. And that's why, again, I love this version of Magneto so much because he's just so dark and he's just so evil. And so what he ends up doing here is basically just like, showing up to what's like literally taking off and coming face front with the rest of the X-Men and really like Iron Man and a handful of other heroes. And so it's like, okay, fine. If this is how it ends, then this is how it ends. And unlike the main Marvel Universe where he might roll over or he might retreat to like another base of operations, Magneto's like, no. this fight ends here. Like this is literally the last stand. And so this is essentially like Magneto versus the Marvel Universe. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.